I want to welcome you to today's call. And if you hear a barking dog in the background, well, that's just life. I think someone is just drove up, so she seems to be a little vocal right now. As you're coming in, though, I'd love to know where you are. Normally, I am in Tampa, Florida, as most of you guys know. If you tune into any of my live streams or know anything about me, then you know that I'm based out of Tampa, Florida. But for the past couple of weeks, I've been in Virginia taking care of my 94-year-old dad. He is beginning to slow down just a tad bit. He would resent that, but he's obviously beginning to, need a little assistance. So I've been here for a couple of weeks, and it's been fun to be here. There's a lot of wildlife, etc. So it's been kind of a fun thing. Today, though, I want to share something that's a little uncomfortable for me. I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys in that when I first started my business way back, like in 1991. I didn't even know what a business really was. I just knew I needed to make $200 a month. Like I needed to pay the car payment. That was my goal. And so I frequently told people that I'm an accidental entrepreneur because it started out of a necessity. How can I stay home with my son and not have to go back into the corporate world? So that was how my business originally started. And so through that journey, based off of the skills that I learned, that was how my businesses evolved essentially. And I really never really focused in on my thing. What is my thing? What is my, like, what am I passionate about? And how do I take that passion and turn it into a business? Now, through that evolution, and many of you may get this too, by the way, and I would love to hear from you if you feel like, in fact, let me just ask the question. Do you feel like what your business is right now has this question is twofold, actually. Do you feel like what you're doing right now in your business is your passion? And do you feel like, so that's the first question. And I would love to hear from you guys around that concept first. And then I have a follow-on question. So, hey, we have Paul from Laurel, Maryland. Welcome, welcome, Paul. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, so if you guys do feel like what you're doing right now is reflective of your passion, that's one question. Just say yes, or and share what your passion is. I would love to know, if your business model is in alignment with, whatever it is that you just love to do. And there is absolutely something to be said for, if you love what you're doing, then you will never work another day in your life. My husband frequently tells me that I'll never quit because I love what I'm doing. And some days I'm like, yeah, no, I'm eventually going to retire. I'll eventually not do this anymore. And he's like, yeah, not happening. But I've had to come through this process and to really get to where I'm at, because there were things and we all do things in the course of our business that we don't love, right? So, and we have, hey, Nancy, and so nice to see you too, sweetie. So nice to see you. So going back to that question, I'm serious, guys. I want to know, are you doing what you're passionate about in your business right now? That's my first question to you. My second question to you is what you're passionate about very clear to your ideal client or your ideal customer? So this has been my struggle. And like I said, I've been very, I don't know if it's reluctant, but reluctant's not the right word, but I've been a little bit nervous about opening up about this because I've so struggled with it. And when I say I've struggled with it, I mean, like, I'm still struggling with it. I'm just going to be totally transparent, like understanding, I get what I'm passionate about. I'm there. I totally understand that. I love helping other entrepreneurs shorten their learning curve and to kind of take the complex and make it simple so that they can do it. Because the reality is there's just so much stuff today that we struggle to do it all. And ultimately, because there's so many things that we think we should be doing, we really stink a lot of things up because we can't focus. Let's just be totally transparent there as well. And I can't be the only one that struggles with this. All right, so April says, I love what I do, but it's not my true passion. April, I would love to know what you're doing, and then I'd love to know what your true passion is. So when I sent an email probably about a year and a half ago to my community, and I said, or to those that were on my list, and it was it was basically divorce is tough, and I talked about the fact that I was separating from my previous business, which was Boom Social. And, there's assets in a business, just like there is, things inside of a marriage when you go your separate ways. Sometimes you have kids, sometimes there's pets, sometimes there's, physical property, who gets what. And so when we were going through that process, the same things, like, there's business assets. Are you going to take that? Are you going to take this? Do we jointly have custody of this? And so that process was difficult. And then the next thing that I had to go through was, okay, now that I'm no longer doing that, what am I going to do? How am I going to show up? And what do I really care about? So my biggest struggle has always been through this journey. My skill set has been, just building and building and building. And I'm like, well, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. That looks good. And so I really struggled to figure out what am I going to do? And I think we look around today and we're looking at, okay, well, look at what that person's doing, and look at the other person, and I could do that. Yeah, I do it. But the point is, do you want to do it? Is it something you're passionate about? So April is saying she's an email marketing consultant. Girl, let me just share, but I want to help military spouses become entrepreneurs and make money. Girl, both of those, I'm so passionate about both of those things. So let me touch on real quick. I just this morning saw an excerpt from Ryan Dice's a presentation that he gave at Inbound. I think it was at a recent conference. What was the name of the conference? Oh goodness, it doesn't matter. He was doing a keynote at a big conference, HubSpot. There you go. It was at HubSpot's conference, and he was talking about all the things that are dead and then what is living on. And one of those things was email marketing. He was like, double down on email marketing right now. So you're in a good spot for that. But as a retired military family spouse, who, when I started my first business, I was a military spouse, and they don't make a lot of money. I'm very passionate about that too. So I love both of those missions for you. I'm hoping that there's a way maybe you could do both, like teach military spouses how to do email marketing, for example. That might be something that would be great. So, and then we have Paul, who says, love teaching, now teaching seniors how to use their smartphones. Oh my goodness. Paul, that is such a amazing niche. Love it, love it, love it. So when I was going back to my story real quick, and I'm sorry I'm rambling on a little bit, but I think the value in this story is that everybody can be there. Anyone can be there, essentially. And a lot of people are still there. So if you're not making money in your business, or you're just getting started in your business and you're not sure what is, how do you really nail that down? So and it ties in hand. If you can figure out what you're passionate about, and then how you monetize it, that streamlines your messaging, essentially, and then you start to attract the right people. So when I was trying to decide, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to just do the same old stuff, or am I going to really pull it back? And it's been a year and a half in this phase of trying to figure this out for me. What am I going to do? How am I going to show up? What is my mission, and so this is what I've arrived at. Because there's so many facets to what I do and so many ways that I know I can help people. But what ultimately matters and what is going to drive a business result for those that I want to serve. And so I arrived at something that it's a big concept, but I think it has smaller nuggets. So I named my new company Pivot to Freedom. And the moral to that story or that theme is that as entrepreneurs, there are things that we have to shift. And sometimes they're small things and sometimes they're large things. So let's say, for example, let's go back to April, who's doing email marketing. Most people don't do email marketing very well. In fact, they really stink it up. But yet it's a huge pivot. And it is, and it has to be intentional. It's where the money is. So if you don't pivot and you don't go down that road, then you're going to struggle financially to make your business as profitable as it possibly could be. There's other pivots too. Maybe it's list, of course, list building is a piece of that email marketing, in my opinion. But maybe it's funnels. Maybe it's getting your branding streamlined. Maybe it's deciding that, you want to do webinars. So what does that pivot look like? So my thing now is those pivots and helping people identify what they are in their business and then helping them to go down that road. How do you do that essentially? And then we have Susan, who says her passion is producing, writing, directing, and acting. I love that. So are you doing that in your business right now, Susan? I'm just curious. So now that I know what I care about and I'm going to go after that, it makes it so much easier for me to message it too. So like before, I couldn't even articulate what that was. Like I was all over the place. Have you ever felt like that? Like somebody asked you, let's say, for example, when we are in the online space and we do online marketing or we have an online business and you go to a social event where there aren't, I hate to say people like you, but I mean people that have online businesses as well. So when you start to talk to them and they ask you, well, what do you do? Can you very succinctly articulate what you do and have them get it? Question. I mean, seriously, do you ever feel like you go out into the social space and you meet somebody new and they just don't get what you do? So yeah, Susan says yes. Yeah, I mean, that happens to me. And then sometimes even, especially in the last year and a half, people would ask me, well, what's your new thing? What are you doing? And so now essentially, my elevator speech, if you will, or my one-liner is I help entrepreneurs figure out what the small shifts are in their business that can generate additional revenue. That's very specific. It's those small things. Sometimes they're big things, that it generate additional revenue, because I am always about the bottom line. I always want to impact somebody's life and business in a financial way. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other ways that, I have touch points, but I really want to make that difference, because I know that as that previous mom who was a military spouse who wanted to stay home with her baby boy, I know that if I can help somebody generate more revenue in their business, then it's going to impact their lives. It's also going to impact other people's lives, because as your business grows, guess what, guys? You bring on more people to help you. So like right now is one of my greatest blessings in my life right now is my team. Now, I have struggled to build teams over the years. My team is about 25 now. We just added 5 new team members, and they are a huge joy to me, not just because they are doing a lot of heavy lifting for me, but because I know that I'm impacting their lives. I know that because I have a place for them to work, that now they have revenue coming into their homes and providing for their families. So that matters to me. It's like I say, it's a huge, huge blessing for me. And that's what happens when your businesses start to grow, is you get to where you can impact other people's lives in some other unique ways. But if you don't feel like, and I really want to get to the core of this, because I want to give you a resource that will help you figure this out. Now, going back to, if you don't know what your passion is, if you don't know what your thing is, so let's talk a couple of examples. People who are known for one thing and they do that one thing very well. Let's just a couple of examples off the top of my head. Jeff Walker, he is the product launch guy, right? And he owns that. Ryan Levesque has the ask method. Again, one thing, very succinctly messages that, and the people that come to them are, they know exactly what they can do to help them, right? It's very, very clear. Donald Miller, the story brand guy, exactly the same. Like when you go to his website, and by the way, if you haven't paid attention to or have never even heard of Donald Miller, I want to encourage you to check him out and read his story brand book, because a lot of what I share today is about that one thing. Like, how do you figure out that one thing, what your thing is, and then how do you monetize that, essentially. And his the story brand system that he teaches is all about that. How do you succinctly tell people in a very short window of time how you help them and how you can make them the hero of the journey that you can take them on. So if you haven't checked him out, definitely do so. So let's see. We have David. Hey, Dave. I'm so excited to see you. How do you help someone determine the difference between a hobby they are interested in and a business they want to build? Great question. So that's the thing, and I think, and that's what really I'm getting there, even though I've come through a lot of story here to get to what I really want to share with you guys is when you don't know what your thing is, and more importantly, even if you think you do, I would bet you that maybe you don't, because I've been there myself. So in my journey in the past year and a half, and even prior to that, I've never been known for one thing. I've been a generalist in every one of my businesses, and really defining for me what that thing was a struggle. And then how do I message it? So I think the story brand will really help you to, after you've figured out what your thing is, and then, starting to message it very succinctly. So going back to Dave's question, and the resource I want to give you. So my friend Shalene Johnson, who's a stinking brilliant, she really is, and she's done a lot of, I Googled it this morning and I noticed that she had several podcasts on exactly this thing, like how do you figure out your thing? And so recently she's been doing some promotional things, and she's come out with a freebie that helps you go through this process, because guys, this is a lot of crap, and I say that like loosely, but you get down and dirty with this because it's so painful to go through the process to figure it out. Now, sometimes we know what we're passionate about, but sometimes we don't know, to Dave's question, how do you figure out what's just a hobby, and then how do you move that forward to a business? So one of the things that she came out with, and I just felt like I had to share it, was it's basically a guide to figuring out your thing. And it takes you through like the process from defining what you're passionate about. Maybe it's a hobby, and then getting through that, taking you through the entire process. And the thing about this is that I wished I had had this resource when I was trying to figure this out. Like, I was like, man, this would have saved me hours and so much headache to try to get to a place where I could identify. And for me, it was about, I knew what I was passionate about. I just couldn't figure out how to label it and how to message it. And that might be you. Or maybe you're at the beginning phase and you're just not quite sure what are you passionate about. So Dave was talking earlier about like how do you make the difference or define the difference between a hobby and then a business, or how do you even take that hobby to a business model? But one of the things that I think is even a struggle for some beyond, or even maybe before that, is we don't maybe even know what we're passionate about. We don't even understand that we have, all of us, by the way, have God-given talents. We all have God-given abilities and resources and knowledge that other people want to know and will pay for. But we struggle to define it. We struggle to figure it out. So I think this workbook is going to help you tremendously if that is you. I would also say that I bet you that if you have struggled with this, or even if you know what you're passionate about, I bet you struggle to message it. I bet you don't have your brand succinctly positioned to where, people know in a hot instant that that's how you help them. So I think this resource is going to be value-based to absolutely everyone that is listening, and whether you're listening live with me today or whether you're watching on the replay. I think that this is going to be a huge value add. So go to this link that we're just going to pop it up on the screen real quick, and you can grab this resource. So it's kimgarst.com/discover your thing. And I wanted to spell it thing, Thang, but we didn't, because my operations manager is like, well, nobody else but you spells it like that. I was like, okay, fine. But definitely go check this out, because I think it will be a tremendous resource for you if you have ever struggled with trying to figure out what your thing is, or like I say, there's variations in various stages along this journey that if you don't nail it, you could be missing out on a lot of business. And especially if you're first starting. And having struggled with this my entire entrepreneurial career, I thought, well, maybe somebody else is struggling with this. And so I wanted to share it with you guys. And I'm just curious if just sharing my story was helpful. Do you sometimes feel like you are out there all on your own and you didn't know anybody else would have this problem? And I think sometimes people look at people who they view as successful and think, well, they didn't have that problem. They just know this stuff. It just came to them, just like boom, and they knew it. But that's not true. All of us struggle. It's just always a fascinating dynamic. Almost all entrepreneurs struggle with exactly the same things. So let me take you back to your childhood real quick. When we were children, we all probably decided that we wanted to be a vet or a doctor or a lawyer, or maybe we wanted to just be a mom. And I say just be a mom. That I don't mean that. I'm not diminishing that concept, because that's a huge job, probably even more important than any of the others. But the point being is, we make decisions, and very rarely do those things that as children that we decided on come to fruition, because so there's a few, like some people will say they're 4 and they're saying, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up. And lo and behold, they become a doctor. They knew their mind, is my point. They knew it and they stuck with it and they made it happen. But most don't have that. And so what happens is it creates exactly what we're having right now is most entrepreneurs don't have that aha moment of just, oh my gosh, that's it. That is just it. I know it. It's mine. And they own it. It's usually a process. And sometimes we don't go through the process, therefore we never nail it. And that's what I want to hopefully eliminate with giving you guys this resource. So we have, I love this, Dave. Dave is saying gifting doesn't equal passion. I agree 100%. I learned that the hard way after spending 15 years of my life doing something I was good at, but caused me great anxiety and stress. So I'd love to tap into that just real quick, because I agree. Lots of times, and some of my previous business models have been like that, where by necessity, I had a business that provided, and I learned from it. I'm grateful for the journey, but it wasn't my forever. You know, it wasn't like that's my true calling. And even with my current business, I know there's more for me. I don't know what that's going to look like. I feel like God has a bigger plan for me somewhere down the road, but my where I'm at and what I feel, it still feeds my passion. I'm very passionate about where I'm at right now. Love what I'm doing. And then the next phase, maybe something else, just I'm on a journey. But if you don't get on a path that you're passionate about, and you really don't love what you're doing, or if you can't even define how you take something you love doing and monetize it, then that's where I hope that this guide will help you, this workbook. So Jean is saying, can't wait to do this. It seems all my life I've tried to figure out my passion. Girl, yeah, I'm with you. I am so that person. And that's why I felt like if I shared my story and just was open and transparent, I mean, and this has been my journey, my entire entrepreneurial life has been a struggle to define my what. What is it? I mean, I was clear on what I cared about, but I couldn't message it. I just couldn't nail it. And so for the first time, I feel like I have a message around the mission and the passion, and I'm hoping that you can do the same. So April saying, thank you for being brave and vulnerable. Yeah, it was a little uncomfortable for me. I was telling Jeff, who's doing the production of the show today, I was like, I don't know where this is going to take us today, but I'm just a little nervous about it, but I'm just going to be totally open and transparent. And hopefully through that journey, then it'll bless somebody else. And if it helps one other person go from muddy waters to clarity, I've done a great job today, and it'll have been worth it. So definitely go download Shalene's freebie, because I think, and like I say, I Googled it too, because I'm just like, I like to know what's out there before I, share something. Like I Googled, how to tell, how do you get your thing? And there's so many resources out there, but nobody gives you a process for it. And so when I saw Shalene's, I was like, I have got to share this, because I wished I had had that resource when I was struggling with this. And now, even though I feel like I've nailed it and I feel like I'm on the right path, I'm like, maybe I should go back through this again just to see if I can answer the questions with total transparency and arrive at the same place. So I think I'm even going to go through the process myself just to see if it takes me, like I say, it brings me to the same conclusion I've arrived at all on my own after a year and a half. So is there any questions? Take a quick sip there while it gives everybody a chance to, all right. So Matt says you have, thank you. Excellent. Yes, I'm in that search of what is the best use of me. Yeah, sometimes, like I say, you get lost in the job, right? You also get lost, I think, lots of times, especially in my earlier businesses, you get lost in the fact that you feel like you have to stay there because it's generating revenue, and so even if it's not what you're passionate about, you feel stuck. So I hope through this journey that maybe there's a way to tie in what your passion is to something you're already doing, like we talked about with April. Sorry about the barking dogs, guys, but it is life. And like I said, with April, maybe April, you could teach, military spouses how to do what you're doing. That might be a tie-in without, losing, what you're doing. It's just a way to pivot it. See, I'm all about those pivots. So definitely, guys, go download that. I know I'm harping on it, but I just feel like it's such a blessing, and it'll be a blessing if you leverage it. So if there's no questions, I guess we'll just pop off, and we'll see you guys again next week at 1:30. I have some amazing topics coming up, and I have some incredible news. So I can't share it yet, but be on the lookout for big news coming my way, coming your way from me, rather, I guess. So, all right, guys, take care. God bless. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.